The title of my talk for this evening is The Barbie of the Bible. You know, growing up in India, I didn't have any Barbie dolls. Forget Barbie dolls. I didn't have any dolls to play with. But my daughter was born here. And of course, my daughter had to have all the dolls possible. She had different dolls, Oopsie Daisy dolls, she had Barbie dolls, she had all the dolls you could name. And one of her favorite dolls were the Barbie dolls. She has a collection of it. She's got these collectible Barbie dolls too, and she's neatly arranged it in her closet. And I've seen Indian Barbie dolls too. So when I look at Queen Esther from the Bible, she has exhibited charm and elegance, restraint and self-control, a teachable spirit, modesty and authenticity, a winsome personality, humility, strength, and dignity. She is no doubt the Barbie of the Bible. She was a strong, godly woman. Esther indeed is God's woman. And curiously, the name of God is never mentioned in this brief history. God or prayer is never mentioned. No angels appeared to Esther. No miracles appeared in front of Esther. Yet in the course of her faithful daily conduct, God's plan for his people was carried out, and a great biblical heroine emerged. Let's go to the story of Esther. Esther was the Cinderella of her time. She was an orphan. She was raised by her cousin Mordecai, and he taught her to be courageous and instilled in her his faith. And when the fickle Persian king Ahasuerus impulsively divorced Queen Vashti, Esther soon found herself as one of the contestants for Miss Persia. Apparently, there were 400 contestants that came from the 127 provinces of Persia, from Ethiopia to India. And when Mordecai looked at them, he said, "My Hadassah, she looks 100 times better than these women." So he went and he talked to Hadassah, and he said, "Hadassah, why don't you go and compete for the Miss Persia contest?" She said, "Me? I don't think I'm ever going to be Miss Persia. I don't think I'm ever going to be the Queen of Persia." Mordecai somehow convinced her, but before they went into the king's palace, he said, "You know, Hadassah, we'll have to change your name. Your name is going to be Esther from now on. And you should not tell anybody that you are a Jew. You can practice your religion quietly. Don't let anybody see it, because people don't like Jewish people around." So Hadassah went, and she was now Esther. And everybody liked Esther. She found favor in the eyes of everybody, including the contestants. And before she knew it, she won the king's heart. There was something about her that the king just looked at her and he just fell in love with her. The king rejoiced, Mordecai was happy, and Esther, she was surprised, but she was grateful. And the nation rejoiced too. Already Esther was bringing blessings into the kingdom. You know, King Ahasuerus was famous for throwing banquets. And so he had this big banquet for Queen Esther, and he also gave gifts generously to all the people in this kingdom. And he also had this remission of taxes. But you know, in the Bible too, when couples get married, it's not, they don't live happily ever after. Soon, there was an evil interlude. Mordecai worked at the king's palace, and he heard two of the king's bodyguards, Bigthan and Teresh, talking among themselves. They were very angry with the king, and they wanted to kill him. They wanted to assassinate him. Mordecai heard about it, sent word to Esther, And Esther told the king about it. She saved the king's life. And Mordecai was waiting for a reward. Sometimes when we are at work, we do all the hard work, but somebody takes our work and they act like they have done it, and they go places that you would never dream. And Mordecai looked and he said, you know what? I did my part. And there's a God who looked after me. It took 5 years for Mordecai to be rewarded. But he did his work honestly, and he did his work in a way that he knew that God was watching over him. And soon there was another evil interlude that came again. Haman was promoted instead of Mordecai. He became the prime minister of that country. And he was so full of arrogance. He wanted power. He wanted everybody to bow down to him. Now Mordecai, he belonged to the tribe that King Saul belonged to. King Saul was the first king of Israel. And when Mordecai realized that Haman was an Agagite, he said, I am not going to bow down to this man, because the Bible says not to bow down to anyone. And Haman was so angry. He just looked at Mordecai and he would shake his head. He wanted to do something to Mordecai. Now sometimes each of us have a Haman in our lives too. There's somebody that has hurt us. There's somebody that has done something wrong to us. And what do? We nurse that grudge in our hearts. They're physically absent from us, but we nurse it. Just 2 weeks ago or last week, we heard about this man who flew his plane into the IRS building in Texas because of the grudge he nursed in his heart. But for the grace of God, we would all be in that condition. Thank God for his grace and mercy that we can overcome these feelings of revenge and hatred. And so Haman wanted to know more about this guy Mordecai. He soon found out that Mordecai was a Jew. He said, I'm going to teach Mordecai a lesson. And so he he went and he did his background search, and he said, I'm going to get rid of this whole community. And there were about 15 million Jews in Medo-Persia. And how was he going to do it? He was not scared to do it. And you see the struggle, you see the great controversy going on here. Struggle between good and evil, between God and Satan. And God was in control.